Welcome to the Tiger Interview Series.
Hi everybody, in this episode I have Tom Davis and Tim Jones. We had them on a previous Tiger Interview Series where we spoke about coaching philosophy, game strategy, and communication. In this episode, however, we continue the conversation with recruiting. Tom has an experienced background as a college coach, high school coach, and recruiter. No stone is left unturned in this conversation. We talk about preliminary steps, your recruiting, and the soft skills you will need as you start your journey this upcoming season. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Tiger Interview Series. This is a second edition for Tom and Tim, and we ended off our conversation where we didn't talk about recruiting, which is one of the things that I wanted to get to, but we are getting into that 60 to 90 minute mark, and I wanted to separate this conversation because it's a topic all by itself. So before we jump into recruiting, and I know that's a very general topic, so we will get specific on certain ideas and really capitalize on the conversation with the expert advice with their backgrounds. So before we jump in, Tom, give us a brief intro, and then we're going to go to Tim after that.
My name's Tom Davis. As I said before, I'm the 18U Elite Showcase head coach for the Rawlings Tigers Pittsburgh. My main job, and I mean full-time, is I'm the director of recruiting for a company called Student Athlete World, which we handle recruiting, boys and girls in all sports. And I've been doing this for 8 years, but through college coaching, I've coached college baseball, college softball, and coached different sports, baseball, softball, football in the Pittsburgh area. So sending them and actually recruiting and bringing that knowledge into student athlete world keeps me busy. I've been the last 4 years recognized as the National Recruiter of the Year. We do a great job and love to talk recruiting all the time. So I get out of baseball and we'll go recruiting today.
So you've seen all areas of recruiting, from the high school route where you have been a high school coach to the college route where you were a college coach. What colleges were you a coach of?
I was the pitching coach and assistant coach at the University of Charleston in West Virginia, and I was also the head softball coach at Chatham University in Pittsburgh.
Tim, you go ahead and give your brief intro. I know that everyone knows who you are already. This is not your first rodeo, so.
I appreciate it, Spike. Good morning, everyone. If you haven't seen any of the previous videos, my name is Tim Jones. I'm the Pittsburgh Regional Director. We're having a bunch of fun in this massive blizzard that I think everyone literally has a taste of it now. So I'm excited. We're touching on a couple different recruiting things. We got Tom in our back pocket, so I'm excited for what this conversation is going to bring today.
In recruiting, it seems like everyone thinks more on their self, right? So whenever we're trying to get to school, we think, okay, how do I get there? What are the things that I need to do to be there? We never think about the other side of the table. I want, from Tom, your background as a college coach, explain the process from a college coach's perspective on each class. Because I don't think a lot of people really understand what's going on from a coaching perspective, because they're dealing with administration deals. Like one of the guys that I really look up to, and he coached me, was Coach Keith Gutton of Missouri State. And it seemed like most of his time was not in coaching. It was more on admin duties and recruiting. So could you give a brief glimpse of what it's like to be a college coach so that people understand their cadence when they're going through their recruiting?
It's funny that you say that, and it's absolutely true. Dealing with administrative, budget, travel, everything, and recruiting takes up so much of a college recruit or college coach's day. And again, and you got to throw in family time. They do have to do that. So it's like when you get to go out to the field and actually coach and work with the kids on the field, it's great. But from a college coaching thing, I mean, I've been doing a lot of like a huge series that I have on YouTube to where I've been talking to college coaches from different sports, different levels, and interviewing them from Division I through JUCO coaches. And right now is entirely different. And we talk a lot off the air and get really down into it. But I mean, right now, I mean, people are frustrated. I mean, it's the one time that in a college coach's life to where they don't have everything under their control and they're waiting. I mean, they're waiting to see, are kids going to stay? Is the NCAA going to grant more eligibility? And look, a lot of Division I, unless you're a huge Power 5 thing, a lot of Division I's right now are on hold for, say, like 2022 and everything like that, because they just don't know that they're dealing with the unknown right now. And that's why I get involved. I do D1 kids in sports, but I do tons of kids that are D2, D3, NAIA, and junior college. Just because of my ability to bring my knowledge and our database and everything. We work with every college program in America. But college wise now, I mean, it's tough. And the thing is that a lot of coaches, you see a lot of Division IIs right now trying to lock down next year's kids and try to get steals and all that because of the uncertainty with Division I.
Are you talking about class of 2020 or 2021? I mean, sorry, 2021.
2022. I mean, 2021s you're still looking for, but usually when you get to the D2 and the D3, they'll know and they're in the process, but there's more offers going out from those schools a year out instead of that going into their senior year with the signing periods and all that, because I mean, they look at that. This is probably the best thing that's ever happened to D2, D3, and NAIA is that Division I coaches are on dead period. It just changed yesterday to May 31st, and it may extend. But, I mean, before it was going out to June 30th. So I'm hoping for a lot of people that they'll keep it May 31st and that the D1 guys will be able to get out and do some visits and everything like that for June and July.
What's a typical timeline for a coach on a certain, like, let's just say specifically the freshman class right now, or just classes in general? What is a typical timeline for a coach to fill that class up with players that they need?
It depends. It depends on the level. I mean, Division I's. I mean, they'll look 4, 5, 6 years out and have people on radar. If they really like them, get verbals and all that. Division II's, a couple years. Division III's and NAIs, I mean, they usually go, on a year-by-year basis and everything like that. It's just entirely different. And the reason being, a lot of there's such a tweener factor between the divisions that Division II's wait, and they're usually recruiting a lot of kids that are getting Division I things, and usually they will see if kids slip and try to pick them up and everything. But they usually go 1 to 2 years out, and then Division threes, NAIAs, and that usually go year to year.
Are they looking for are they looking for every position, or is there position specific based on class?
I mean, they usually have their set rules of what they try to bring in to, have this amount of pitchers, this amount of, middle infielders, first baseman, third baseman, catchers, outfielders. So, they're going to sit there and look through tons of kids project it out and everything, and then bring it, they're going to go, I call it, for the kids, I call it a funnel process. And what we do is we get a lot of contacts, and then we want to funnel it down. They will do the same thing. I mean, there's kids that, the school might not have what they're looking for to study. And I'm going to tell you what, Coach, it's amazing, because schools can come up with different stuff to sit there and fit and try to get somebody in academically. But the big thing is that Division ones, I mean, if you go up and you look at I call it their war board. I mean, they're sitting there. I'm looking now, like my thing, I'm looking to sign 2022 kids through 2026.
If you were a college coach right now, that's what you'd be looking at?
Yep. And also in my job as a recruiter.
So at what point does the 2027 start coming into play?
Next year.
Like it's that early.
Yep.
Why is it getting earlier, in your opinion?
It's getting early because I really think that there's so many travel events and everything like that now that they see them at a younger age and everything. I mean, I've had kids that have played for me, in high school and that commit before their freshman year, after their freshman year. And
would you say that this would be a fair statement that information is so it's available at a moment's notice, that's actually expedited the process, it's actually brought it closer to younger age groups because it's so easy to market your abilities?
I'm going to tell you what, with the youngers that you see verbally, they're usually a coach direct C. Okay, they go out and they watch that kid at 12 years old start projecting in their head, and if they think that they could be a fit, they'll make that offer. It's not at that age. Like when I do mine, typically, like in my recruiting thing, I like to get kids in 8th or 9th grade, because that way I get their information across the nation, and then in personal recommendations through evaluations to schools that I think it will be a mix, to get on their radar, get in their database for coaches to go see them and everything like that. But the one thing is from that 8th or 9th grade year, Spiker, that college coach is going to have updates, data updates, every kind of statistical update, every kind of report, academically, behaviorally, every, family issues. They're going to know, they're going to have that whole story, so that junior and senior year, it makes it very easy, because they've seen the kid through what I do and updates and all that through our company and myself. It makes it easy because you have their whole story in front of them.
How do coaches find a 12-year-old or 13-year-old? I mean, I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you. I'd like to get your opinion on this, because it's coach direct, right? Like, so literally a coach finds out that, oh, there's a 13-year-old out there. Because a lot of parents are thinking about this. They're like, how did that kid even get seen? And he's already committed to be not even a freshman. I mean, there's a couple players here in St. Louis.
somebody dropped a name to the coach and said, you know what, there's this outstanding kid, hey, come take a look. You might get the inside track on them. And that, I mean, that's definitely how it happens. And also, like I said, I mean, I we had a kid at Mars who he's still playing, and this is going to be his junior year, but before his freshman year, and I had his brothers, so I've seen the kid from sixth grade and everything. And the kid hits absolute bombs. I mean, he goes down to a thing in Georgia, and right before he has stepped on the field as a high school travel age kid, he's got a verbal commitment to go play at Georgia Tech.
So I guess the biggest recommendation for parents and players is to develop that network, develop your own network, start getting in front of people, especially the bigger clubs. And then also, obviously, social media probably plays a bit of a factor in that as well, because then if you keep on sending out video, you'll have a better idea who that player is.
I think the biggest thing that is out there is there's so many options, and parents are starting to ask more questions like, what should I spend my money on? Because there are a lot of money grabs out there, but I think the biggest thing that's coming into play now is how big is social media, right? How many events out there now have cameras and track your data? So you're giving every college coach under the sun the opportunity to track that player develop, right? So they know their work ethic. They see where they're at. If you got blast now and you're 13 or you're 12 years old, they know where you're at all the way through until you hit 15, 16. Now you're freshman, sophomore. So they can kind of see your work ethic and where you're growing. And then on top of that, you're able to use your own social media to go out there and continue to broadcast yourself, right? And I think the biggest thing that's starting to play a factor now, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point, is the transfer portal. So you now have to start to look at your secondary options where, what is my path to get to where I want to go? And if you want to go to a certain school, we're going down to Gardner-Webb this summer. I know firsthand from Tim Chester, as does Tom, if you're a freshman, you better be a stud with measurables, because if not, I'm comparing you to guys in the transfer portal that already have a year of experience. So now you're not just competing with your senior class trying to get there. You're competing with guys who went JUCO or D2 or whatever, and they're transferring out now. So there's a lot more measurables that need to go into it, and the relationship has to be a part of it too. Sure. And what's a good fit? I think a lot of kids now and a lot of coaches now are starting to realize, and it takes a little bit with that ego. Like coaches have the ego, but some kids have that ego where they're the stud, they're the dude there. And what tends to happen is they're the dude. They have a D1 bat, they have a D1 glove, they have a D1 mentality, but they're putting general studies for their elected area that they want to go to college for, and they have like a 2.4, 2.5. Essentially, you're almost failing living at home, and you want to go 12, 16, 20 hours away for the exact same thing. And now they're looking at you like, yeah, you got the measurables, man, but I'm not going to babysit you. Like, I can't take a risk and offer this to you. You better go find another path. Like, go JUCO first. Let them get your grades up, find what you want to go for, and then go from there. There's a lot of areas that are starting to change now with this transfer portal and COVID and the dead periods.
Yeah, I think GPA is kids look at it and be like, oh, I have to have a good GPA because that means I'm a good student. It's more of a communication tool than anything else. Like if you have a really good GPA, you're basically communicating to the coach that your effort level's there. You're locked in. It's not necessarily like, oh, is this kid smart? It's what's his effort level, because you can really control that GPA on how you treat your schoolwork, your homework, your quizzes, your tests. Like, are you spending a week before the test to study, or 2 weeks before the test to study, or are you just hopping in that test and just, well, let's see what happens. Yeah, just wing it.
and that Spiker, I mean, it's good because, when you go on a visit and everything like that, I mean, that's one thing as a college coach and stuff that I teach my clients that are going on visit. College coach is going to sit there and he's going to tell you, hey, great, yeah, you're 3.8 and all that. Number one, I don't want to have to deal with any academic issues. And, that has kind of evolved over the years to where, a lot of people would sit there and take chances on it. They won't anymore because, I mean, that they try to get it down to an exact science, which it's not. But they will control. I mean, they're gonna say they'll sit there and tell you, okay, well, here you are. Explain your 2-4 when I have 10 other kids here that are 3-5 and above, and I'm not going to have to worry about it.
Yeah, same athletic ability, maybe a tick below. If you have a 3.5 and it's a tick below, I'm not going to deal with that headache of a 2.5 because I mean, I just remember back in college, I went to junior college and then a 4-year, and every single guy that had bad grades or was a nuisance off the field, you could just tell that the coach level was they were stressed out, and they don't want to be stressed out because they want to focus in on what matters to them, which is baseball. They don't want to focus in on your academics. They care about your academics, but that's not their specialty. Their specialty is baseball. I'm going to teach you life skills. I'm going to try to make sure that this team is good, and we're going to go win championships. That's what they want to worry about. They don't want to worry about, hey, is Johnny going to pass his math test?
Absolutely.
We talked about the transfer portal. I don't think a lot of people really understand that there's a underlining market out there. You obviously, if I'm a player and I'm looking at where I want to go, let's just say Notre Dame or USC, I'm going to look at that roster. I'm going to see what type of players are on there. I'm like, oh, their catcher's a senior. Their other catcher's a junior. I've got a shot. Wait a minute. You got technically junior college, and technically you got the transfer portal. That's a possibility as well, especially with the COVID situation. So how do you view the transfer portal, and how do you communicate that to your high school athletes?
I think the best way that I can put it, I was talking to my friend Terry Smith, who's the assistant head coach for Penn State football and their defensive recruiting coordinator. And he said, we have had to open up a whole new department just on the transfer portal alone because of, okay, now D1s can transfer to D1s and not sit out and everything like that. So everybody that's not playing or isn't projected to play in that next 2 years, I mean, they're entering the portal. And as Coach Smith said, he goes, we have a whole department where you have to know every roster of every school in America to be able to get a database. Is this kid, will he be a fit? So, I mean, the transfer portal right now, just because of the extra years, and also, I think a lot of it goes to the mentality, and I think Tim will back this up, is that D1 or bust mentality, to where they so many kids going preferred walk on, or so many kids are go and for no money, and they get there and they really see what Division I sports is about, and they hit that portal instead of when you sit there and you talk about them through the recruiting process. It's you talk. I always talk about a right fit. And for a kid that's telling you, look, you know what, I want to go in somewhere and play and everything like that, to where you go and put yourself in a situation like that. And I know that you see every once in a while they show the coach, and he has the whole team gathered around, and it's like, hey, we're going to add this kid to scholarship, and all. It's few and far between. I will tell you that right now. And you're usually going to be there and put 3 years in of just grunt work, to where I mean, you're basically, use a naval thing, you're a plebe. And and that's what it is. And when you put up with all that, and you go out and you make some special team stuff, or you go out and you know your role, and you're a fast kid and can go in like that, it can happen. But I just want tell people, because it's few and far between that you will ever move up and all that, and to go and just get a jersey and be a part of a team and everything like that. I mean, if that's it, instead of you wanting to go play, then I would say then go for it. But I mean, most kids that get into it and have that drive, I mean, number one, they want to hear as a freshman, it gets competitions there, and you come in and compete, and I'll find you to play in time.
Narratives are really addicting. Everyone loves the hero's journey, right? And I think that's where we get this whole D1 mentality. Everyone loves the movie Rudy. Everyone loves the heartthrob story where the guy had against all odds he was able to make it. I love that story, and at some point it can really propel up athlete to really push through hard times. But I tweeted out a picture of the Super Bowl. They had something up on the Jumbotron, and it had all the 5-star athletes that were on the field starting positions. And there was only one 5-star football player that was actually on the field. And the 4-star, the 3-star, the 2-star, those guys were actually playing, not the 5-star. I always think about, it's not where you start, it's always where you end up. And maybe you do go junior college, maybe you do go Division II. Whatever your goal is, whether that's I want to get a really good degree and I want to be a rocket scientist and be like Elon Musk and shoot rockets up into space, let's do it. Maybe a D1 school is not for you. Maybe you need to go to a D3 like Wash U here in St. Louis. So I feel like you got to know what your story is and know what your narrative is and what you really cling to. And that's a really good point, Tom, is that you can't be just D1 or bust. Like everyone loves the Rudy story, but maybe you aren't Rudy. Maybe you're somebody else and you got to live your story, not Rudy's story. How do you gain attention from a college coach? How do you get that eye? I always use the analogy that this was a high school and you're walking down the hallway, that pretty blonde over there, how do you get that attention of the pretty blonde?
It's changed quite a bit, I can tell you that. It's if you talk to a college coach now, that's been in the game for a long time, they'll tell you, 7 to 9, we used to sit down in our office and literally make phone call after phone call after phone call. That's not necessarily how it is now, because you have multiple facets coming from social media, and they will put on an assistant coach or that third assistant, if you will, that everyone wants to get paid because they should be, to filter through everything. And there's a lot of times where you have to pick and choose and be wise. And Tom will definitely touch on this, where you have to proofread. Number one, if you have to write it yourself, because if you don't, college coaches will know point blank if your mom or dad wrote this or if someone else wrote that for you, and be yourself, be honest. And if you engage the conversation where you leave a little curiosity and you end it with a question, and now you're engaging certain things in the right context, they'll get you on the call, or they'll email you back, right? Or they'll invite you down to a camp because they really want to see you. And a lot of guys are doing literal like FaceTime FaceTime recruiting on campus right now, which is, I don't even know how they do that.
One of our guys is getting recruited by Harvard right now, and that's what they're doing. That's literally how they're recruiting. Is we're gonna have Zoom calls, see how you talk, how you interact, and what are your parents like. And kudos to him. His mom and dad were like, okay, we'll be on the Zoom call with you. And he was literally like, no, you're not. I'm doing this on my own. I got to stand on my own 2 feet. I was like, holy cow. You are Harvard material.
He's exactly right. Yeah. I give kudos to the kid, because, and just to touch on it with Tim, I mean, and go off of him, everybody has such a misconception of showcases to where they look at it as, this is my place to go and get seen. Well, I'm going to tell you, from coaching college, okay, I used to, I used to get, okay, coach, you're coming to this showcase. Here's your 150 kids that are coming. Of those 150 kids, I go into my recruiting database. Let me see who's going to be there that I have information on and am actively pursuing. So I see 7 to 10 kids. Those 7 to 10 kids are who I'm going to that showcase for, not for all 150. I'd love to tell you that college coaches can sit there and evaluate every kid that's there. That's not the case. And the other thing is, you may have 40 college coaches there. They're there to see probably 20 of those 150 kids. Now, I will say there may be that while you're running, you see somebody run a 6.6 or 6.7. It's like, here you go. Okay, I got to get you on my thing and talk to you and find out a little bit about you, see how you perform in the other areas, or you're there and you see this kid that you're not looking at light it up at 85 or 86, and you're like, okay, yeah, let me talk to this kid. But the misconception to where when you go to these showcases that you're going to be discovered is just that. It's a misconception, and you know uh, that's just how it is. I mean, I really think that I use in my recruiting things for baseball. I use 3 huge showcase events throughout the year, and 2 of them are run by Major League Scouts that they draw in a ton of people. That number one, I'm going to attend that event in person, to where when I walk in the door at 7:30 in the morning, Coach, here you go. Okay, now who do you have? And they're all sitting there like that. And who do I want to look at? Who do I, they ask all the questions. And through the workouts, I'm sitting there going through the crowd of coaches and, having coaches come up and ask questions. And I think that's the best way about it. I mean, I really get into the recruiting thing from what I do now on a personal level and all that. So, I just think that's tough. But like Tim was saying, like the emails and all that, I can't tell you how I stress to my parents. I'll use a name because he's out there. Brody Clemens, great family, everything like that. Coach, we just signed him. And yeah, he plays for my 18U team, and he's a sophomore. Very good kid, and his progress now is going to be, he's going to go out to everybody and have his opportunities. But it's like I said, I mean, they made a good investment. We're going to promote, market, and consult you all the way through on the best things possible. But you got to perform on the field, in the classroom, and everything else. So when taking care of his thing, there's a thing on our profiles where you write a bio. And it's so funny. I always tell them, I'm like, when you get done writing your bio and all that, send it to me, because I check the spelling, punctuation, everything like that. It's so funny. Kids will write emails. I have other reps that sit there and call me, and they're like, your kids do so well. I said, their profiles are immaculate. And I said, send me one of your kids' profiles. And in their bio, misspelled words, no punctuation and everything. As a college coach, when I open that up and I'm like, this is a first impression, and I'm like, this kid didn't even take the time to sit there and write me good about himself and everything like that. And the other thing, like you said, don't get the parents involved. I mean, I told Becky and Rob, and they laugh. I said, sit back and enjoy the ride, because they want to talk to Brody, me, and any other coaches or teachers that have something to do with this kid's ability and character.
Quick question on showcases, because it's such a touchy topic. Like, you have different thoughts and beliefs on showcases and then college camps. I could talk to 10 different dudes or 10 different gals, and I'd get a different answer. Some will be similar, but they're technically different because everyone has their thing. Where do you see showcases and camps and college camps? Where do you see that?
Showcase events where you play games. I like them because they're going to see you in game-like situations and everything like that. The other thing is you have a thing. There's a thing that's called like showcase players, and when you go and you hit off the tee, and like I said, I've seen kids go in and rip 95, rip 95, rip 95. Then you go watch them in a game, and their showcase stuff does not transfer to actual success on the field.
You know, it's a really good point about exit velocity. I was talking about this to somebody the other day. They asked, like, what's a good exit velocity? And I was like, well, is it off of a tee or off of a game? Those are two totally different answers. Like, I've never got the whole concept of let's put a person on a tee, let's get their exit velocity and figure out what they can do. Like, yeah, I can see, like, okay, they have some power. Like, they have some ability there, but doesn't give me a really strong picture of can this kid actually play? Can he turn around a fastball and have an exit velo of 95? And there's so many, like, the exit velo and what goes into that metric. There's a lot of things that have to happen. Like, obviously, if it's off of a tee, it's, the bat weight and then how fast you're able to throw the barrel through the zone. But in a game, it depends on the pitcher, too. Like, you have to know that speed as well. And if you're able to catch up to him and have that timing and you hit it squarely, then we got an idea of what your true exit velo is. I've never understood that metric.
It's a huge deal. Like I know, and I know Tom will second this. I'm sure you've seen it too, where coaches want that data to compare to their players that they have now on the team, right? Like, they ask for blast data, right? They want to know where they're at, and it's just a measurable. They want to see if they can compare. And then if you go to a showcase, they want to see if you can implement that into a game. But at the same time, they don't just want to see you succeed the entire time. And a lot of parents are like, wow, my kid didn't do so great this weekend. I need to go drop $1,000 and do another one, or whatever the case is. They really do want to see you struggle because they want to see how you handle it and how do you come back. You strike out. All right, now you watch, you're down. It's 2-1 game in the bottom of the ninth. All right, you're down 2 strikes. First 2 guys are swinging for the fences. They want to be the hero. You got a full count. You widen up, you shorten up, and you smack a ball and play, right? So now you did your job. Someone's going to look at you a little bit more in depth now because they saw your adversity, how you faced it. They saw you bear down. You're not a hero, but you're going to do something for your team to give yourself the opportunity to win. And I know there's a lot of college coaches out there that the majority, 70, sometimes even 80% of their recruiting comes from guys that they've looked at, that they've invited to their camps, and they will recruit them from their camps because now they can see their measurables on both sides. It's a big aspect.
I'm right there with Tim. Number one, I mean, I get my kids and I'm like, we want camp invites where you work out in front of the staff or with a practice with them so that they see how you're going to fit in their program. I think that's way more important than going out to a showcase. I mean, I think that coaches really like to see the tournaments. They love coming to a tournament really where there's no showcase. Okay, let me see this kid play the game.
What measurables are coaches like looking at right now? What's the big numbers that they find helpful when making a decision?
They're looking for somebody that can light up velocity and everything pitching wise. They're gonna look at control of secondary pitches and like that. For players, speed. I mean, you can't teach it. I mean, kids are gonna have that. You can improve and do a little bit with it, but you're not taking an 8 and making him a 7 and everything like that. So they look at that. They look at arm strength and everything. I mean, it's the funny thing is, and I'll tell my infielders, they'll sit there and they're uncorking them and all that, and they might not be all online. But I'm like, don't stress about that. They're looking straight at your arm strength. They'll settle you in and do everything like that. They want to see, do you have the arm strength to go in the hole, make a play, throw it across the infield. They'll work on that, and that will come with progression and reps.
That's a good point, Tom. Guys right now are so big on metrics like exit velo, bat speed, all of that, those are really good metrics. Those are very strong. But the thing that a lot of people don't consider is that soft skill of competition. And I want to hit on that point, is that the play in the hole. Are you able to make that play? Do you have the gumption to go into the hole, use your athletic ability, and have the decision-making process of either A, I'm throwing this across the diamond if I'm a shortstop, or B, if there's a guy running around second, backpicking him, or a guy running to third, backpicking him. That's where I feel like it's a huge separator.
You throw in, and it's a good thing, Spike, baseball IQ, which I talk about with all of my kids. This kid has a high baseball IQ. He knows situations. And Timmy can tell you from my practices, and because he's watched them a few. I break down everything. And the other thing is, I will stop to sit there and teach. And that's what the practices are for. So many people just don't do it and just go through the reps. And then, at the end and everything. No, I'll stop it right there and say, okay, here's the situation. Here's what we did. What were you looking at? Tell me what you were looking at, what you saw, because this is what I saw and everything like that. And it's just such a good thing. It's just such a teaching tool. The other thing is, blast, great thing and all that. But you know what, the exit velo and everything like that. When I'm going to look at my kids and talk to them about their hitting, I'm in your quickness to contact, and I'm at your bat angle. And if your quickness to contact and your bat angle are all superb, then I'm going to tell you what, you're going to have some exit velo because you're going to be squaring balls up.
Yeah.
The other thing, the other thing is being able, hey, look, you're breaking this back leg. Or, your claps, when you step, your claps in your front side and you're getting out in front. Those little things like that. And I'm right with you. You can have the greatest exit velo, and I've seen them. I just shared this thing with Timmy, and it was a kid ripping a ball off a tee 94 miles an hour and almost falling down over here. And I'm like, okay, yeah, put him in the box and show me hitting a kid throwing 85 and with 94 exit velo, then I'll get excited.
The biggest controllable that seems to be lost on a lot of players, more so in a lot of parents, where and you could speak on this too, Spiker, where I know you see it, you've been there, right? One of the biggest controllables is your attitude, your work ethic. You can have a college coach and you can have 4 offers and 3 of those coaches are coming to watch you play in an event. You could be a catcher and be the laziest person on the field in your pregame, the laziest person going through your motions, hitting in the cage. You can have a bad attitude with your teammates. You can have, bad body language with the umpires or your pitchers, and they will immediately cross you off. That's a controllable that seems to be lost in translation, and I have no idea why. And I think it's more so because this massive push for data and what you do play-wise versus what's your character. Because if you're not a good teammate, and if you can't be, and I teach my guys this too, and Tom knows this, if you can't be a good teammate on the bench, there's no way I'm going to let you be a good teammate on the field. And you have to be able to have that, and you work hard. Do it right, do it clean, hold your guys accountable. You might not agree with a call from an umpire, but that's his zone. It's not yours. It's not universal.
It's
right?
hard to
so
show.
How do you handle that?
It's hard to show that on social media. I view it like this: is that everyone loves Christmas, right? When you walk down, you see the shiny box and everything like that. That's kind of how I view metrics: is that it's the shiny wrapping paper around the box. I get an idea. Okay, that kid has good bat speed. Okay, I get that. The kid throws hard. Perfect. The kid runs a fast 60. Now I want to go over, because I'm really excited about that present. It's really big. That paper shiny, has a big bow on it. Now I'm going to rip it open and see what's inside. Is it coal or is it a new iPhone? That's the real thing.
And you know what? I want to go back this week. We talked about the transfer portal. I think now with the data stuff and all that, people sit there and as we're going through COVID and they can't go out to see people play, that plays a big part, because that kid now gets on campus and everything, and it's like, this kid can't play here, and he's here now. You need to transfer out. You need to do that. And I think so much of that is thrown in. And I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, mainly, with my recruiting thing, and the people will say, Tom, your reports are great, because number one, I'm going to give you the data. I'm going to give you the background, the academic, the athletic. But the whole thing is, I know my kids. I know their attitudes and everything. I mean, when I get a call about a kid, hey, you sent me this, I like his stuff. Very rarely do we discuss a lot about his playing skills. It's like, tell me the kind of kid he is, what kind of family is he from, how's he carry himself, how do you see him fitting? Is he a leader, or will he be, a cliquish kid on our team and stuff like that?
How do players know that they belong at that level? Obviously, the ego is going to give you some false bias and going to give you a narrative in your head, and and a lot of players do think that they can play at the Division I level, but frankly, a lot of them can't. And how do the players know in high school if they can play at that level?
That's a great thing, and I tell all my kids, I'm like, just so many people will poo-poo Division II, Division III, and all that, and I tell my kids, have you been to a Division I baseball game? And about half of them raised their hand. Go watch it. Go watch those kids play. Go watch a Division II game, a Division III game, and you're going to see that these Division II and III and NAIA kids, and they're really good. I mean, it's like I tell them, I'm like, my really, really advanced kids, and they're thinking about the draft and everything. I'm like, you know what? If you don't have that thing, go Division II. I was a Division II player and got drafted and everything. And it was so funny. One of the big things is when I went to the University of Charleston, Spiker, the Charleston Charlies, the AAA organization for the Cleveland Indians, we played there and everything. One of the big recruiting tools for me, Tom, we know that you have that ability and you're looking to get seen. Every team is going to be in here. Feel free. We'll have you in for workouts, pro days. So if you want to get seen and move to that next level, we can help you. Come down and play at Charleston. Great selling point, right?
I tell my kids all the time, if you have this desire to play, okay, what area do you live in? Go look at some of the rosters of the Division II, Division III NAIA schools. Go see who you played against in high school, or some of the kids at different local high schools, and you tell me what your initial thoughts are on some of those kids, and then see where they're playing now. That gives you a great perception. Whereas if you followed behind a guy and he was the best catcher in your section, and he went D2, right? He had great grades, great athleticism, solid teammate, solid player. He went D2. Why do you think that you can play ahead of him at Division I? And go look at the Division I roster, and you tell me how many All-Americans are on that team. When they're freshmen, how many graduate on that team? You might have 9, and then now whenever they graduate, there's 2, maybe 3.
When I think back on my career, I innately did that. Now that you mention it, I've never thought about it that way. Innately, that's what I did, because I was facing guys like here's an example. Tim Melville pitched for the Cincinnati Reds. He threw 95, and I was like, that's not me. I'm not getting drafted. That's not me. But I would face D1 guys that went Division I, and I was like, they're not that good. I can face them. I'm better than them. So I think that's a really good measuring stick, and you have to look at your own skill set, and you're like, yeah, I'm as good as that guy, and he's going Division I. Hell yeah, I can play with him.
Well, and to top it off, it's more so, Spiker. It's the parents' mentality of my kid is just that, and
it's the dinner party syndrome. I like to call it the dinner party syndrome. We all get together with friends around the dinner table, and then obviously conversation happens, and they say, "Well, my kid's going Division I.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing
and what I tell people is and I tell, like, when I'm having my initial conversation with them, and so I'm like, your every recruiting thing is individual. Don't sit there and compare yours to somebody else's. You have different skill sets than that person. You are unique. You are one of a kind. So you have to sit there and put yourself out that way, instead of sitting there and saying, well, hey, Tim Jones, yeah, I can play just like him. Well, you know what? That team at that time needed a catcher, and they liked Tim Jones's whole skill set and attitude. That's why he's there.
It's having a macro viewpoint rather than a micro viewpoint. Having a long-term frame set versus a short-term frame set. When I went junior college, I was fine with not saying I went to junior college. I actually was like, it was funny. I was in the facility working out, and one of the guys that went to Mizzou, he saw me working out, and we were former teammates. He comes up, he's like, "Oh, Spike, what's up? Where are you getting recruited at, or where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to Longview." He's like, "You're going to Long Beach State?" And I was like, "No, I'm going to Longview Community College." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And as the story went on, I ended up going to Missouri State, started all those 2 years, didn't come out. He sat the bench the whole time at Mizzou.
Let me ask you this question, Spiker. How many times do you have a conversation, or do you see other guys have a conversation with a family about recruiting, and you give an assessment? Like, we do assessments here. I know you guys do assessments there. How many times are the parents and the player so far off where it's almost offensive to the parents when you say, listen, you have a great ball player, you have a great athlete, he has D1 capabilities, but the academics and the mental side don't match up. His best bet to get there is going JUCO. And they're like, oh my God, my kid's not going JUCO. Then you have the conversation with the kid, and the kid's like, yeah, coach, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there. Yeah. And it's completely night and day.
Well, I think it's a dinner. I think that has to go down one of the questions that I had for you guys, which is the dinner table conversation. How does a parent open up that conversation with the player? Because again, communication lines are tough at times because the kids won't talk. They're like, "Hey, how's school? Good. How's hanging out with friends? Good. Well, what's good? It's good."
You know what? So much is there's so many distractions for kids and everything now that, you don't sit down and have those dinner conversations, or when you do, there's phones involved, there's this involved, and everything else. But the other thing is just, and there's kids that and parents that call me, and I do the research on the kid, and I'm like, you know what, at this time, I don't think that, he's one of the top 6% that can go and play. And I always tell them, I'm like, prove me wrong. I mean, they'll be like, this, and if they prove me wrong, I'll be the first one congratulating them and everything like that. But the whole thing is, I mean, when you go and as a coach, as what I do as a director of recruiting, you cannot sit there and sugarcoat stuff out to college coaches, because if I call Jim Chester and I'm sending him info on a kid that's throwing 80 miles an hour and and is 5'6", 145 pounds. I'm not even going to get an email. I'm going to get a phone call, and he's going to say, Tom, come on now. What, you know that this kid cannot play here. So, and it's just, one of our things, and I think why our company does so well, is we just don't take everybody like that. It's like, hey, here's our evaluation. Here's what we think. You know, yeah, he's young. Yeah, projectable. He has a shot. I cannot guarantee that, but I believe he has a shot. It's going to be how hard he works and finding that right fit school for him.
I think we have. I think as coaches, you know, especially with good coaches or good recruiters, if you go through certain companies, they don't do that much work for you. They expect you to do it. So then the parents have to take on so much more. So now they're vested in it. They're almost recruiting their kid, right? And it gets tough because how do you separate mom and dad from recruiting for your player? But at the same time, it all falls back into education. You know I've had many conversations where I've offended parents because they didn't like what I had to say, but it was the brutal honesty. And I tell them all the time, I said, the hardest thing to accept is honesty, right? And it's not always what you see. And as parents, you always want the best for your kid. So you expect the best for your kid. Well, sometimes expecting the best for your kid and what is actually best for your kid are two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. So when we educate them, say, okay, how much money did you put aside for college? How much money do you expect him to get to play baseball? There's not a lot of money in baseball, and I don't care how many people told you that their kid's getting a full ride. I'm going to tell you it's almost 100% of a lie. You know, it's just not a reality with baseball. It's not football. It's not basketball. Well, let me break it down for you and give you how many scholarship opportunities there are based on each division. Let me tell you how much money goes into that. Let me tell you what schools will give you money based on your education and your field of study and what they're looking for. And now
more money is in that. More money is in the education side, which a lot of people don't realize is that you could apply for scholarships. If you start sophomore year and target those scholarships, you have a better chance of getting money there than athletically. Athletically helps, and you get to put that on your resume when you apply to jobs. Like my wife is a headhunter. She finds people jobs, and she says whenever I have an athlete, that goes straight to the top of the list because that shows a lot in just a few little words. If they say played Division II baseball all 4 years and also got conference player, team captain, that's like a slam dunk for me.
College, I think they forget the fact that, hey, if you get a good amount of money for education, that opens the door to other colleges because now they could give you money that's not necessarily their scholarship fund, right? So now you open the door to more opportunities. It's just a matter of educating the parents as much as possible or getting them in the right program to be recruited and getting the right help to know what to do to get recruited as well.
You know, as a college coach, when I got emails from parents and all that, they just went. And college coaches will tell you that now too. You know, they want emails, that direct communication with a kid. And one of the big things, like you're talking about, is that dinner table thing. Good. And I mean, I sit there and go through with all my kids when they're going on visits or when they're having their Zoom things or communicating with a college coach, is how to talk to them. Number one, I'm like, you have to assertive confidence. Look them in.
Communication skills. That's so important.
It really is. I mean, if you're a kid that coach is asking you, hey, tell me, how you feel. Oh, good. And they're going to sit there and they're going to be like this. And, you just have, it's learning to sell yourself and everything. The other thing, and it's so funny. I'm like, when you're communicating with a college coach and you're going back and forth, it's funny because I said, you always want to end every one of your conversations with a coach asking them a question. And I say, why? And they're like, okay. And I'm like, what do you want them to do? And they're like, get back to me or respond. I'm like, there you go. So number one, the college coach is going to see right there, and when he keeps asking questions, more information, you're showing them interest. You're showing that coach, hey, I'm trying to establish a relationship with you. I'm trying to gather as much information so that when I make my decision that I have everything. And I mean, it goes those kids that can do that very well, and all that. I mean, it totally helps. And just like Tim said too, I mean, your main thing, I mean, and I always tell a kid, I said, you're going to tell, when you tell me you're making your college choice, I'm going to know it's the right college choice. Because, and it's so funny. They're like, well, what do you think? Where should I go? And I'm like, guys, they're not recruiting me. I said, I have my thoughts, but I'm a totally different person and totally different mindset than what you might be thinking. I said, but it all comes down to I'm going here because even if I didn't play that sport there, this school was setting me up to take care of me the next 40 years of my life. And that's the approach that you have to go into going first and foremost. Because if you're not going there, then, and it's like you see so much now, so many kids are ridden in debt and going to school for stuff that there's no way they're going to get a good job coming out of school. And it's setting yourself up, being true, working through, and you know what, the other thing, and Tim said it, is that network. And I talked to him about when you go and you play a sport in college, that sets up the biggest network you're ever going to have for in life, because alumni that go there, I mean, they come up and they'll be like, hey, Tim, I see you're going to graduate this year. You're a finance major. Guess what? We'd love to have a, Rawlings Tiger guy in our thing. Here's my card. Give me a call a few weeks before you're getting out. I want to bring you in and have you meet everybody, get an interview. That's what it's all about.
There's a lot of correlation with recruiting and business. Like if you think about there's marketing, there's sales, there's a lot of it. And I didn't learn a lot of the sales and marketing skills until I got out of college. And again, college served a really good purpose for me, really helped me find what I was really interested in. But just for a parent's sake, the thing that I've noticed where the ones that are really successful are the parents that have the conversations with their kids, and then they expose them to a lot of things outside of sports. That's where I noticed that there's a lot of success with those kids, because again, one of the players that I had that was one of my favorites didn't even played college baseball for one semester. But his heart really wasn't into it. But what he was really into was the craftsmanship. He wanted to get into the hard trades, and that school, who has a baseball program, had his degree that he wanted to get into. He's like, I don't want to do college. I don't want to spend 4 or 5, 6 years in college. I want to get my degree and get out and get into the workforce, because I'm really passionate about the hard labor skills. And he's making a killing now. He found his thing. And the only reason he did that was his parents had the conversation super early, like whenever they were in a car ride. Like Evan would tell me this. He's like, how was your trip to Indianapolis up here? He's like, well, man, my parents started talking to me about real life stuff. It sucked. But now he's like, that helped him. He hates it. He hated it at the moment because he's like, I want to just hang out on my phone and talk to people and stuff like that. But it helped him move the needle just a little bit forward. And if you get a little bit of the kid's like, nah, I don't want to talk about this, keep pushing them. You never know. They might open up at some point.
Absolutely.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
The best summarization.
Tom, what's your recommendation for juniors and seniors right now that don't have any leads on college coaches? Are they pretty much in a problem area, or is there still capabilities there?
Yeah, you're way behind. I would honestly say, I have a lot of seniors right now that are in that thing and getting phone calls and, can you help us? And usually it's from somebody, Spiker, that I talked to when they were in 8th, ninth, or 10th grade. And, oh, don't worry, we have this. We know what we're doing and everything. And then they call and they're like, we have no clue as to what's going on. Nothing's on the table. What can you do? And, you know, right now, yeah, you're a little behind and everything like that. There's still the opportunities are there. It's just finding those right niches for those kids and all that. But yeah, you are behind, and that you definitely are going to need somebody helping and guiding you and taking you along the way.
I think it'd probably be like a network problem, right? Their brand name is not out there. Not many people know who they are. I feel like that's where they get caught and they get stuck, and it's so hard to create a name for yourself when you haven't been doing it from your 8th grade freshman year.
I think the other side too is like if you go to certain programs where you'll spend $1,500 and then it's like, yeah, here we go. You expect that recruiter to get video and do all this other stuff and like kind of help you out, and they have 90 other clients, and it's like, well, my class is full. I'm done. I'm not really working anymore. And then it's up to you. But then you also have to look at the area. Like what's California doing right now? They don't have any sports. There's nothing going on. So it's almost impossible for those kids to get recruited. And you got players that need these sports because it's keeping them out of trouble. It helps them keep their grades up because they're focused. They're involved in something that's pushing them. And then you also have guys getting extra years of eligibility where you run the risk of a guy that had a full-time job lined up and he's passionate about baseball. He wants to pitch another year, right? So now your spot's gone. There's no money for you. So they have to tell you that. I think what's going to happen, and it's just my personal opinion, you guys can chime in on it. By all means, I'd love to hear your opinions, is I think this next 2-year stretch, like this year, next year, maybe even the year after that, we're going to see those guys that are the first guy to show up, the last guy to leave. You're going to see those hard workers that are going to make drastic decisions, but are great decisions where they're going to go to a community college. They're going to a JUCO. They're going to go and get some education, maybe work a little bit, kind of get a taste of the real world because they always had plans to play baseball. They're not sure what they want to do, but they really want to play baseball. They'll end up being those transfer guys that help out a team, and they will make it if they work that hard to go and they continue to believe in themselves. But it's going to take a special group to do that. It's going to take a special mindset to do that. But I think we will see some of that where you're not the dude, you're not the guy on the team, or you're the 5th guy on the team and you're consistent and you're a great ball player and you have a chance to go, but space is limited, numbers are limited. So what can you do next? And I think that's a good route for some of those players that really work hard and push themselves.
Yeah, it's strong hands versus weak hands, right? Do you have weak hands or do you have strong hands? Are you going to just throw it up and like, I'm done with this, I'm over it, or are you gonna double down on your effort? I always think about it this way: is that when doubt is at its highest, you got to double down your effort.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many factors into it. I mean, like Timmy was saying, I mean, let's go this way. Last year, the Major League Draft was only 5 rounds. So, I mean, a lot of kids that were looking to go, came back. Okay, let's see what this year brings. And then, with the extra year eligibility. And the other thing is, and what people don't realize is the junior national NJCAA has granted a free year of eligibility. So you're actually going and playing junior. So you can be that 3rd year sophomore and everything like that in junior college wise. So there's just so many things that have played into the mix. And believe me, with the NCAA and everything, I have my ideas. Don't want to put them out there yet, but you might see another granted year coming this year and everything. But I mean, with everything that's going on right now, for the next 4 to 6 years, recruiting is going to be to find those right niches, and especially the more that we go along and programs get cut, like Division III programs. That's the other thing people don't realize is, I mean, There's baseball is not a huge revenue bringer in unless you're a Mississippi State, an LSU, San Diego State, all types of Clemson schools like that, and their programs, because the schools aren't bringing in money and the conferences aren't bringing in money, programs are getting cut, and more so than you can imagine. And it's just, I mean, I look at like the MAC conference now and everything. I mean, they're having issues and stuff. So it's going from Division 1 on down, and it just having somebody to take the stress off of you, work with your kid, find those right niches and all that. You're going to see so many kids that you thought were high level going D2 and D3 and all that the next thing in the next couple of years, just because of the influx and the changes with everything that's going on.
What are the 3 priorities a player needs to make right now to have a major impact on their recruiting or just their career in general?
If you want to do this and you want to go to the next level, the first thing that you need to do is, what's your GPA? What do you like? What don't you like? What do you want to go to school for? If you're not sure, go out and experience, do a job shadow, and just kind of figure it out. Once you kind of narrow down what area of study that you want, and I see way too much of general studies, figure out what you want to do, get a general idea, and then now you can narrow down your search for what schools you want to do. Figure out if you want to go in-state or out-of-state and how far away you are. Are you going to get homesick? Do you want to go to a school just based on their baseball or their baseball pedigree or what their facilities are, and then I'll just figure out what I want to go to school for? No, figure out what you want to go to school for, because there's no guarantee after this. Figure out how far away. Do you want to live off campus, or do you need to be close to home with your family? Do you have medical issues in your family? Is someone else sick? Do you need to help take care of them? Whatever the case is. Or are you that solo flyer that you can fly across country and go to school in California and you're totally fine with it? There's certain people that have that mentality. So what are you willing to do? Because if you go out there and you get a job, chances are you're never coming back, right? So you have to look at the education side. You need to amp your grades up. You need to study more, or whatever the case is. Find your academic area of study. Now narrow down your search. And it's, in my opinion, it's always better to work with a recruiter, because they will help you and they know the game more. They'll be able to help you find that, instead of you kind of being that coach that's scouring YouTube for the best drills, help you narrow down what you need to help, and have that conversation to take what you're giving them and help them narrow it down to be more precise overall. And as a parent, just help them, help your kids get there, push them to continue to finish and succeed in school and get their grades up, and help them find the best opportunity overall for what they want to go to school for, just in case baseball doesn't work out. You have to have both sides of that.
Okay, so first priority was to do your research, have a better idea, get your GPA up. What's your second priority?
Second priority is, do you want to go in-state or out-of-state, and who has your degree area of study?
Okay, and then third priority?
Third priority after that, go out there and find a way how you can make that team, or if they have a need for you, so you can funnel it down to at least 3 to 5 schools, and then now you have options.
Okay, Tom, what's your 3 priorities right now?
I really have 4, and they're real easy: grades, effort, communication, and help. Especially right now, grades are so important, and it's money that you get without the baseball or a sports program. Effort, something that you can control. I mean, you have to have effort in your grades, effort in your skill set on the field, and your.
What does effort look like?
What's that?
What does effort look like? Because everyone talks about, you got to have effort. You got to go out there and go get it. What does that mean? Like, what does it look like?
And it's funny for different kids. there are kids that give great effort and are just tremendous athletically, and that they're given great effort, but they make it look so easy. And then there are those dirt dogs and everything else like that. And it's just a mindset of being in yourself. I mean, I tell all my kids when they go to any camp in any sport, I'm like, you know what? In between drills, you're the first one. You're the first one there. Every coach that you pass, you introduce yourself. Everything. It's making the effort to sit there and be assertive and promote yourself. You want to promote yourself on the field. You always want to give effort, hustle. The same thing as that. Some kids have it in their makeup a lot more than others, and there's kids that you don't have to say one thing to, and there's kids that you say it to. I mean, I always talk to my team. I'm like, one thing that we can't do is get out efforted. So I mean, I build that in every time I talk to them.
It's doing little things. Would you say it's doing little things more than anything?
Yeah, absolutely.
So being able to pick up the glove of your teammate, going out there, giving them the glove after they just got made an out, or being able to be the first guy out of the dugout and literally crossing the line and giving high fives. I like the whole introducing yourself to coaches, because that's outside your comfort zone. It makes you stand out. I like all that.
And it goes back to when we were down there with the 15Us and all that. And I can remember all the coaches, and it's one of my pet peeves. Infielders, you always stay near each other like that, and you know that, okay, hey, the second baseman made the last out, shortstop, grab his mitt, take it out to him and everything like that. It just looks so much more better than standing there and saying, hey, somebody going to grab his mitt and everything like that.
What's a conversation that a parent could have with their player in the next 3 months that'll have a major impact on their high school career and their college career, and more importantly, their life?
I would say number one is finding out if exactly what if you want to go to the next level. Do you not? Finding out. And right now, if you're young, it's good. You can be undecided. I usually say by the time you hit 11th grade, should somewhat have an inkling of something that you might want to do in school and all that. The other thing that it's crazy, so many people go in undecided, like Timmy said. They enter college and they're undecided, and they're like, we'll figure it out when we get there, and they do general studies, and
they kick the
can down the road.
Yeah, and it's so hard like that. I mean, my kids, and I'm like this. Hey, let's have a thing in place, by our junior year of what we want to do. But the main conversation that I think that you can have is just an honest one with your kid, and say, I would say, let's go. You know what? This year, teams are playing. Let's go see a Division I, a Division II, a Division III, an NAIA game, and watch these kids play. And then you project yourself in an honest way out there and everything like that. Because it's so funny. People that do that and then come back to me are like, okay, Tom, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, they can play. And Tim will tell you that the PSAC, the Pennsylvania Conference, and the Mountain East Conference Division II around here, I mean, they have 10 of the top 25 Division II programs in them year in and year out. And like, I'll take you down to a University of Charleston pro day and stuff, and you're going to see these Division II kids, 92, 93, lighting it up, and scouts are going to be there, and they have kids that that can all play and everything. So, I mean, yeah, it's just it's knowing and being honest, having the effort, making the communication, and number one, I mean, and Tim knows this. I mean, it's help. Right now, recruiting is so hard, and people think that they understand or can get through it, and they just can't. There's so much that goes into it, especially now with all the changes. That get somebody to sit there and help you. And that when I say get somebody, it's not just get a profile that you can send out. Get somebody that's going to sit there and guide you
A
through
mentor.
the process, take you through the process.
A
Exactly.
mentor. Tim, what is your conversation that parents should have in the next 3 months?
The first place I would start is, we've seen seasons get lost, right? We've seen the side effects of that. So take a step back, look at yourself on the outside in, enjoy it. You have to enjoy it. How much do you enjoy it? If you enjoy it to X amount of level, okay, let's take a look at a few schools that you might be interested in. Let's go attend one of their camps, get some real measurables, and get some feedback from an actual coach at the division that you're looking to go play at. So now you're kind of narrowing things down, and you're giving yourself a few doors to open at the same time. It depends on the level that you're at. If you're a sophomore, maybe more so if you're a sophomore, you go out there and narrow down your search. Make sure that you get an idea of what you want to go to school for. And if you're not sure, use some of your summertime off to go experience it. Maybe go call a place and do a job shadow as well. Use this summer and use this spring to work on your grades, narrow down your search, join a camp so you can get some measurables, and decide what you want to go to school for, and have a secondary plan. What is your backup plan? If you don't have a backup plan in the next 3 months, then we can't move forward with this until you do. Don't just go gung-ho and run buck wild to, I'm going to play Division II baseball, Division I baseball. Now it doesn't happen. Now what? You're living at home, you're working odd jobs, you're trying to figure out your life. 5 years go by. Now you're depressed and you're upset and you hate life. Don't go down that path, right? Enjoy it, have fun, find out your level of enjoyment, and take the next steps from there.
I find general studies very interesting because I went into college not really knowing what I wanted to do. I went in and I made a decision. I was like, all right, I'm going to do business. And I niched myself so much that it was still general, technically general. It was business, but exposed me to a lot of ideas inside the business world. And I was like, man, I really don't like most of this stuff. And I got really intrigued with biology out of sheer luck. I got a really good biology teacher, really fell in love with it. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go into microbiology. I get down to Missouri State. Missouri State says, oh, you have to do labs. So yeah, you have 12 hours, but technically you have 24 hours. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to travel, do baseball. And I was like, can I skip labs? And they're like, no, you have to be there. So I ended up making an Audible, going back to the business route, and I chose economics because that I found it fascinating on how the world worked, and that's where I ended up going. So I think it's better to niche yourself in a category your freshman year, and then really take that first semester as like a learning curve and be like, yeah, this is not me. I don't really like this, or maybe that is me, and I find it. I go even more niche, and I go into accounting, or I go into marketing, or I go into sales, I go into communication. Like there's so many different routes, but I think if you do general studies, it's so general that you're not going to be able to niche yourself into, I really like this topic, or I really enjoy this teacher, and I really am fascinated by how they're able to explain a certain topic, and I want to be able to do the same exact thing. So I think that's a very good point, Tim, on general studies. So, guys,
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
One other thing that I think is very, very important, and which has gotten away as we're in this COVID, I would say prioritize. So many kids, they and during the summer, they get their schedule and everything like that. And and I've had this conversation with my kids. If you get invited to a camp from a coach and they want, hey, we'd like you to come be part of this prospect camp, kids are going to work out in front of our coaches and everything. And they're like, well, I have a game that weekend. Excuse me. The priority, I mean, guess what? It's Rawlings Tigers is going to give you a showcase and all that, but you do have to do the things necessary. And if you're looking to go play and you get that opportunity, I mean, me as a coach, hey, good, we got somebody else that'll fill in for you. You go take care and kill that camp. And, these kids, a lot of kids these days will sit there and say, Coach, are you going to have something else? Because, I'm busy. I'm playing that weekend or something. And you blow them off. Guess what? And then it's like, well, he never got back to me with another camp. Well, yeah, you blew him off when he was, had his people there and everything else that he was going to do it. And I think really – it has hurt a lot of kids because, the camps haven't been going on through the COVID stuff and a year passes by and you haven't been there. So prioritize yourself. If you're thinking and you have that opportunity to go to the next level, take advantage of the opportunities. I mean, you know what? When you come back, guess what? We're still going to love you and you're still going to play. I mean, that's how I think coaches should be. But I also will be like, I know that there's coaches that say, "Oh man, come on, you're gonna blow us off to sit there and go, try to set yourself up for the next level in life." So I mean, prioritize yourself. I don't think that's being selfish. I think that's being smart.
Guys, I really appreciate this conversation. It was awesome to really get your thoughts on recruiting, get your opinions, your expert opinion and advice. One mission statement that I had for doing podcasting and starting the Tiger interview series was to share information and stuff that's not being said on the internet or information that's being held in because you have to know the right people. I think this was a very valuable conversation for everyone involved. So thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. Guys, if you want to subscribe to this channel, we have a podcasting channel for the Tiger interview series. That's where we will host the audio version of this recording, and we'll also be posting this on YouTube. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rawlings Tigers. And if anyone wants to get in contact with Tom or Tim, what's the best route for them to contact you?
They can either text me so that way I know what they're, text me to make sure I'm available, or just email me. Either one, because I will get back to them regardless. And I love questions. I love answering questions. And if it's something that I'm not quite sure on, I'll pass you off to the person that you should be talking to.
Tom, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, through my email, I can supply Spiker with my email and my phone number, and you contact me, and I can send you tons of information about my company and also what I do.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.